Welcome back to the jacked up garage, living up to our name. It's a couple of days later. It's Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas Eve. So you could generally tell, generally speaking, what kind of crap that a guy is into just by taking a look at the tools on his workbench. So let's check that out. Yeah, well, we've had to get out the big guns. So if you've ever spent any time tinkering around with these old beasts, then you know what I'm into. So we had decided what we were going to do was pull all the, spark and fuel system, get everything out of the way, and reduce all the compression, if there is any, and reduce the drag due to seized up parts and pieces on the engine, so that we could try to turn it over. And if it turns over, then we'll take the next step and rebuild the carburetor and the ignition system and all the steps necessary to try to get the thing to fire. And if it will fire, then we're going to take the next step and go on and get it where it could be roadworthy. And that means brakes, that means suspension, that means lots of stuff. And if we can do that and it's roadworthy and it feels good and we still are in a good mood and wanting to give it a go to get it back looking good, then we'll start taking it back apart and doing body work and so forth. So to that end, we were pulling out spark plugs. And again, if you've ever tinkered around on these old beasts, then you know the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to twist a spark plug or two off. Well, we twisted off five out of 8. We're stuck in the block because this thing has been sitting for 43 years. So 46 years this thing has been sitting without spinning. So they were just seized in there, and not the threads so much. Not much rust in the threads at all. Where we're having a problem is in the bevel there, where it seats against the block, and that's pretty typical. So I'm going to show you the way to get these things out. Now, depends on how they come out when you break them off, as the next step that you got to go through. Sometimes what you'll get is it'll snap off and you'll be left with porcelain and from the porcelain down, basically, in the engine block. And then at that point you got to pick all that crap out and basically have to wind up with a hole that you can put an extractor in and get it out of there. And sometimes you get lucky and you wind up like this, and it just pulls apart and all the porcelain comes out and leaves you with a nice tapered hole that you could put your extractor in and pull it out of there. So that, I guess that's lucky. Luckiest would be they just back out and you don't got to worry about any of this. And luckily we're working on a 1956 that's, you could literally sit on the fender and hang your legs inside and work on it from that way. So we got some room. There's one back in the corner that broke off. It's underneath a heater blower, blower motor housing, but I think we can get back there. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to get you set up here and show you how I get these things out when this happens to me. Okay, I literally have you jammed in the engine compartment here, and I'm going to try to work around the camera as best I can. If you can see closely, let me get the light here. Closely, that is what we hope to see when we pull spark plug out. Nothing left, spark plug gone. If you look over here, this is what you hope to not see. We have part of the spark plug left down in there. And in fact, this one may have to be a two-stage job. and you can see the buildup of the rust around the spark plug base there. That's just going to get in our way for what we want to do. So I'm going to pause it here and clean it up a little bit so that it's a little bit easier for us to do what we need to do. So hang tight. All right, I got some of it out. It's better than it was anyway. So what we're trying to accomplish here, and the tools you are going to need, is you are going to need an easy out, which is this guy. So I think it's a number 5. But get a good one, because the problem is these are hardened steel, and if they break off, which they do quite a bit, if it breaks off in there, then there's nothing really else you can do except start pulling the engine apart, get the head off of there, and you have to repair the threads and everything else. So take your time, be patient, and don't force it, or this will snap off in there and then you're just in a world of hurt. So the other thing you're going to need is just crap load of heat, and I'm going to heat it up with a little flexible hose torch with a little bottle of MAP gas on there. Propane is, I just don't think it gets hot enough, and we need this sucker hot, and you're going to want to get it just to the point before it starts melting that thin metal that's stuck there in the block. So put this in, heat the crap out of it, and you're going to have to set your rig up to where you can adapt to this. Now this is a happens to be, come on, focus, happens to be a 3/8. There we go. This happens to be a 3/8 square, so you're going to have to kind of work backwards, and what I use is a 3/8 drive socket with an Allen, 5/16 or whatever. Allen, not a 5/16, but what am I using over there? Anyway, you kind of have to adapt it backwards. It'd be really nice if they made these with a hex head, but I've never seen one. So you just kind of have to work backwards and go from there. So let's get it set up, get going. Okay, so what you're going to want to try to do, and this may be, we may have to do this in stages, but we'll see what we can do here. Get that started in there. And for those of you who don't know how an easy out works, it is left-handed threads that it bites in as you try to back that thing out. It bites into the metal, and so as you're loosening it, it wants to tighten in, bite into the bolt that you've drilled out, or whatever, in this case the end of the spark plug here, and so it gets tighter and tighter as you're trying to pull it out. And that's when you can, if you're not careful, you can snap it off. Likely when we heat this up, it's going to loosen that up a little bit. We'll have to give it some more love taps with the hammer, and you want to get it started in there good so that it bites and doesn't just start to chew out the inside of that spark plug. It really needs to grab a good hold, and so that it will start loosening those threads. And tapping it while it's hot helps too, because it might break loose whatever rust is holding that sucker so tight. So hang tight here, and let's get our heat on it and see if we can get this thing out. Okay, it's several days later. We had Christmas, and we had Christmas again, and quite honestly, I just walked away from it for a while. It got to be a little frustrating. And when that happens, you just got to walk away from it, or you're going to get ticked. You're going to rush things, and you're going to do more damage than you're doing good. So, and I apologize. I didn't get any of the plugs extracted on video. Honestly, I was talking dirty to it, and I just didn't think it was appropriate for family viewing. So I just went at it to get it done. I'll tell you what I did. Let me show you where we're at here first. So they're all out. As you can see, there's some evidence down there of some superheated metal. Hope I didn't warp the heads, but they're all out, both sides. Won't bother showing you that over there. But so what happened was, I had the spiral type easy out, and the spiral type easy out, they're great if you're trying to extract a bolt that you've just broke it off. The threads aren't that bad, and you just need a way to. It might be a little tight, but you just need a way to. You just need a way to get it out of the threads that it's in, and you just can't get a hold of it. The problem with them is as you tighten them, as you try to turn the threads out, they turn in and put even more pressure on the threads that you're trying to pull out, and they can jam them up, and you can't get them out, and then you run the risk of breaking it off in there, and then you're just in a mess, even worse than you already are. So and the other thing that happened was, I sprayed the crap out of them with Croil and scraped away as much of the rust as I could so that it could get down in to the threads as far as it could, and down in that bevel, and it just wasn't getting in there, just wasn't doing the trick. And so I applied heat, and it's typical. That's what you do. You put your penetrating oil on there, apply heat, put your tap in there, and try and get it out. Well, I just rookie mistake. I put the tap in and then started heating. And what happens when you heat hardened steel? You anneal it, and it softens, and the little flutes that are supposed to be sharp and hard and grab the metal that you're trying to extract, they get soft, and it just eats them up, and it won't come out, or it won't grab in there, and so it's just ineffective. So I went ahead and ordered me a set of new easy outs. I got these Mayhew, and they are the flute type, straight flute. I'll show you what they look like here. So here's what we're looking at. Let me do this. So as you can see, it's just a square, straight flute. They have these edges on here. Let me get some light. It's just a tapered square. Each corner has a sharp edge. You hammer them in there, and they don't pull themselves in like a twisted spiral type easy out does. So it doesn't apply additional pressure on the threads, and they are tough. And I got to tell you, this was worth whatever, I can't remember, 25 bucks or something I paid for the set, and I only used the 3/8. And the reason I used the 3/8, come on dummy, the reason I use that is because, and I don't know why they do this, but they are square. It's a square. And so, you know, if you're doing what I'm doing, which is sticking this thing down there in the block, you can't get down to it to put a adjustable wrench on it or anything on it. You have to have some extension out of there to get something on the end of this to try to twist it off. So you've got to adapt backwards from whatever you've got, you know, to square. So I used 3/8 so that I could take a 3/8 socket, and I used a 3/8 5/16 socket and turned it backwards, put it on there, turn it backwards, and then the 5/16 6-point, I have a socket that it's a bit that goes on my socket that, or goes on the ratchet, that is a 5/16 Allen head, and so it'll go down in the socket, and now you've got it back to, you know, where you can get your half-inch ratchet on it. So if you got a 1/2 to 3/8 adapter, that's what I used. So that's where we're at. I got them all out, and I'll show you what we got here. Okay, so if you're lucky, you get this when you first start taking them out. And we got 4 of those. And it wasn't one side. It wasn't in the front of the engine, wasn't in the back. It was random all throughout. Some of them stuck worse than others. Then this is if you're not quite so lucky, but still kind of lucky. It will break off, and it'll pull the entire porcelain out and just leave the threads in, and then you're left with basically this, which is a hole. And you can even see where I knocked that easy out in there, and it gripped the edges, if it'll stay focused. Right, so you're left with, you get this, get it out. Okay, that's if you're the next level of lucky. This is unlucky. That is broken porcelain. Part of it left in the porcelain, left in the threads, and you got to take your chisel or something, you know, a pick tool or a punch of some kind, a center punch, and you got to get that. You got to get the porcelain that's left in there. You got to knock it out, and most likely what's going to happen is it's going to fall through there and go down into the head, and then that's your next step, is to get that out of there. So this is what you're left with. This is what a set of plugs looks like when they are left in a head, when they're left in the engine for 46 years. If you're lucky, you can get them out and not have to pull the heads out. So the next thing I did after I got those out of there is I took the air gun, took the compressor, and just, if you can get your air gun down in there, and if you can aim it just right and shoot high pressure down in there at the right angle, you create kind of this tornadic effect, and it will blow whatever is in there out. It'll come right out the hole. I don't always recommend blowing the air gun down in the cylinder head, but you've got to do what you got to do, and it will, hopefully it'll get that stuff out of there or down in your engine block. So it blows a lot of the loose rust and stuff out of there. The other thing you can do, which I did as well, is I took some PVC pipe and some hose, a little tubing, and I just adapted it down, hooked it to the shop vac, and reached down in each cylinder and sucked the stuff out. So I'm pretty sure I've got everything out of there that I can get out. If there's anything left in there, it's not coming out, and maybe it will blow out if the engine ever runs without taking it apart. So that's where we're at on the spark plugs. I call it a success because they're out. Now, did it take me 6 days? Yeah, it took a while. So, but that's okay. We got time. Not in any huge hurry. I don't got to drive this to work next week. So, the other thing we did, of course, we got the generator is off. And the carburetor is off. And we'll take a look at those here real quick. But we're off and running. I did, just for fun, go ahead and put a breaker bar and an impact socket on there, and it's not budging, it's not moving, which I assumed it wouldn't. But the other thing is look here, water pump. That's going nowhere either. So at the very least, that water pump's got to come off there. We got to see what the problem looks like. We're just buying a new water pump. But for our purposes, what we want to do, we may see if we can just get it spinning, or maybe not. I don't know. You know, if to do the 100-mile test, we're going to have to. But just to get it running, we just leave the belts off and not worry about it. For now. And if you look down in there too, you can see, probably not because of the way we got the light held, but thermostat stuck open. That doesn't help. That lets moisture down in. Doesn't look too bad down in there. Got some caramelized gas, caramelized fuel, and some rust down in the intake. I was quite pleasantly surprised that we got all four of the nuts or bolts. The studs, the two back studs came out, two front nuts come off. So anyway you look at it, the carburetor's off, clean. So doesn't look too bad. Got some more shop vacuum to do to get. I mean, if we fired it up right now, we'd start a fire underneath that intake from all the mouse nest in there. I've tried to get a bunch of it out, but I will tell you, the generator does spin. Somehow it got that pulley, you know, it's got the vent or the fan pulley that's on it. Somehow got caved into the housing and it drags, so we'll have to straighten that out. We'll put that on put a battery on it, see how it spins. Maybe we don't have to do anything to it just to get this thing running, but we'll see. We will see. And that down there, what looks like someone left a rag laying on the frame, is what I initially thought. However, you can see remnants of it on the other side as well. That evidently was their sound deadening. Looks like a burlap bag that's been soaked in oil. Hilarious. Part of it's still there anyway. This is the original ground strap. That nice turquoise color you see is the deterioration of the ground strap. Settling down in the grease on the cross member there. So we're on to the next steps, and so the next thing we're going to do as far as this engine goes is we're going to, I think what I want to do is I'm going to pull those rocker covers and have a look in there. If those are rusted solid, then obviously there's no reason to try to turn the engine over before we try to turn it over in situ. We're going to get it out of there and just pull it apart if that's the case, because if the rocker train is looks like the Titanic, then the rest of it's going to look like the Titanic, and there's just no reason to mess with it further in the car. So we'll see what that looks like, and I'll show you when I get those off of there. And then we'll take a look at the generator, what it looks like. We'll take a look at the carburetor, and we'll see what it looks like, see if we can get it rebuilt. So I will get back with you. Thanks for watching.